Welcome back to Goldenridge. Today we're laying down massive infrastructure that'll shape the future of the region. Sprawling highways, new railways, and some of the most complex interchanges we built yet. So let's get to work. Now that the terrain has been shaped and the landscape feels a bit more refined, we can finally start thinking bigger. This whole western region is going to be prepped for a major metropolitan expansion, and before we drop in neighborhoods and downtown grids, I want to figure out where the bones go. This is talking about highways, interchanges, freight and passenger rail, maybe even some transit corridors. It's really just all about placing the big pieces first so that everything else can fit naturally into place. We're also going to start thinking about land use, where residential might go, dense commercial zones make sense, and how it all connects back to the rest of the region. This isn't just about building something big, it's about building something that actually works. So what I want to do first today is take a look at the actual layout and get a rough idea of where some of this stuff might land, where different areas will actually sit, where our highways will actually run, and start that planning that way visually so we know what we're doing. So first, let's take a look at where neighborhoods will be in areas. So the first thing is we'll have downtown right in this area we talked about last time, an inner city residential area across the river, industrial all the way along the port area here, a mid-city residential area right next to kind of a fancier coastal residential area, and then up along the coast here we'll have some commercial and industrial mix, some extended residential filling out this area, and then a big suburban residential area in the middle here that'll just really span out. So that covers the gist of the different areas, but in terms of highways, we'll start with a looping highway that goes all the way around our suburban area and meets downtown and then connects to our Blackfoot and Rockwell areas. We'll have a highway coming from our southern area, connecting all of our intercoastal areas and ending in the industrial port, and that'll continue on to meet the stem of our downtown and residential suburban loop. We'll also cross the suburban and residential area with a smaller highway that connects all three of our main highways and ends in the commercial industrial area, as well as a smaller connector highway going from our industrial area through the inner city residential and out to the suburban residential area. So that does it for highways. As far as railroad tracks, we'll start with a track that comes from our canyon under our giant bridge and goes downtown all the way to our industrial port. We'll have another train track that comes from Rockwell and Blackfoot through our main area, suburban residential, down through downtown and into our industrial area. A commuter line coming from our southern area that will cut across our mid-city residential, inner city to downtown, and then also a more industrial line coming from our southern area that will run along the coast and down to our port area. So that's the gist of what we're going to be doing with this area. Obviously things will change and this isn't going to be exact, but that's the overall picture that I'm thinking about. So I think now we'll go down and start laying some of this stuff out now that we have a plan. And I think the first place to start is going to be up top. So I want to move into this region and we'll start with our connector to our Rockwell and inner Colorado area and then get the loop going and we'll go from there. So let's take a look at this area first. So I think we're going to just keep an easy parallel thing here and we'll make sure that we are uncurved, and I also want to make sure we maintain our elevation. So 21.1 is fine, and I think we are going to force a bridge here. So we're going to come in probably about there and bring this in kind of that way, and I'm only going to run it to about here because this is going to split off pretty significantly on its own to create a nice big T intersection for our looping highway. So let's really look at that. So okay, so now we're going to get to our looping highway here, and we're going to keep this, let's see, I think we'll bring this up a little bit. We're going to keep this at parallel and really nice and close together. So to kind of match roughly what we had going on in our previous layout graphic, we'll get something in here going kind of like this, and something going around about like that, and I think we'll have this meet about here and come across the river on a little bridge this way. And then we'll go back a little bit because we actually do need to make a bit of a sharper turn to stick with our plan. So because we need to run this right down along the river here. So we are going to start about there and curving right about there and bring this a little more curved down to about here. I do want to get a straight section in, and then we're going to be going about halfway between the river and that butte there on the left before curving in. Something like that. And then we can bring this in about there before we curve it again and bring it right about there. I think will be good. And then going the other way, we'll just connect up to here. And I think we kind of ran across this kind of big open area here and right up to the foot of this mountain. And we'll bring this in, have a straight section about here before giving ourselves this little kind of coastal loop area here and bringing that down there. Pull this around, and this will turn into our kind of downtown section about, let's see, oops, probably about here before we turn into the city, and we'll come straight across the edge of our downtown before we curl up around again, and we will terminate somewhere in this vicinity. So that's kind of our loop area. I think that this, maybe we can come across here, but right about there, then we'll figure out kind of this big interchange. So the next thing I want to do is we will have a bridge crossing about here, so we can use, I think we'll use this one. Yeah, so we're going to raise that up a bit and get Anarchy turned on. So something like, I want to kind of use these land points to keep this as short as we can. So I think that will just about work. And then we'll switch back to highways. Oh, that was only the 2-lane. So actually that was a mistake. We want to make sure we're using 3-lane bridges. 3-lane, there we go. So let's try that again. And we'll make sure we move that out of the, that's actually probably a little low too. So let's go find these nodes and we'll bring this up a bit, and then we might even just grab these in the middle and give this a little bit of an arch, as you will see on some bridges like this. That might be a little much, but these bridges do go real thin on these sections. There should be more support stuff underneath this. If you look at like the Golden Gate Bridge or the Bay Bridge, large bridges like this, they definitely have a little more heft to them under the road, but that's what we got for now. Okay, so back to our 3-lane highway. There we go. That fits a little bit better. And let's make sure we're staying nice and high here. I think we'll bring the land up to meet most of this. And then I think we're just going to come kind of straight in with this for a bit of a ways. And now's where we can take this long area to kind of reduce our elevation. And then let's see, I think we're going to bring this down about here. Bring this somewhere down like this. I want this to end up running fairly parallel to the other highway that we had right there, which we're pretty close to. Let's actually do this way because I do want to bring this a little farther in. So we're going to run this fairly parallel to that. And then we can even kind of bring this around to meet up like that. And then we'll have this guy come in just a little bit before taking it back out to our coastal area and come down here. And actually, let's see, I think we want to cross this. I think can end up being either probably a tunnel maybe, or we'll bring the land down a bit. Let's see, just kind of a softer turn there like that, I think will work. And let's see, let's bring this across. So what height is this at? So interesting to want to maintain this height here. We can get this all flattened out using Move It actually after the fact. So let's just bring this in here like that, and then we'll go straight into our industrial area. And then this is actually going to come down to the ground. And then what I want to do is have a section of ground highway that can actually become more of a street, so that we don't have to have an on-ramp or an off-ramp, and that kind of industrial traffic can more easily get access to this highway area. And we're actually going to take it, I think, kind of like that. So we'll have to adjust some of this a bit. So let's just turn that off and turn this a little more like that. And is that, I can't quite see. We want to be right about there. And this we want to be all the way up. And now we're going to force, or not force ground, but bring this down to meet at ground level there. So that's, there we go. That's what I want. And then in order for this to meet up where I want, we will start to go back up here. And we're going to, we won't force the bridge yet, right about there. And then bring this around this butte and have this come right about there before turning. And this then will have a big interchange to meet up with this. So that is looking pretty good for our kind of bigger highway areas. So now I think we'll go with the 2-lane highway area or highway road, and we're going to go from this guy straight across, because basically what I want to do is meet up here. We'll go ground level to start and bring this around a bit like that, and then we'll take this up a little bit and have this run parallel about here before about there before turning and going. I actually probably want this to go underneath. So yeah, that looks like we got a little low with this highway. We'll adjust all these heights afterwards once they're kind of in place where we want them, because we're going to need to figure out which goes underneath what and all that kind of stuff. So and then we'll cross here and just, I know I had this going a little straighter on our map, but it was also at kind of a funny angle. So we'll have to just adjust a little bit for some of that. And then we can take this and go straight up, and actually meeting on this curve might actually benefit us in the long run. So we'll put that there. And then again, we will do kind of a highway that starts from the road or from the ground level and comes up to about there. Runs under here for an interchange. I want to come back to ground level here so that we can have an easy turn off. But actually, no, we're not going to, because I want this to be raised so that we can have a raised turn off that'll go into downtown. So we'll keep that up. And we're actually just going to have this go, I think, straight across. And let's see, do we meet it? I guess we could. We might as well just have it meet here. I was going to have this terminate like into roads, but it's right here. So we might as well just connect that to this other highway. That way you could get from here, change onto this highway, and either head up to this way or out over our bridge. So that's pretty close to what we had in the map. So I think that is a really great start for our highways. I'm just going to go through and clean some of this up. All right, so that's a decent, quick cleanup of just some of the highway stuff, just smoothed a few things out. I ended up bringing this turn out. It felt kind of silly wrapping it around the way that I had it in the mock-up. I do want to be able to service this area pretty easily, but I think having just a weird loop like that felt a little strange. And then, yeah, I mean, a lot of this will get ironed out a little more as we start adding in roads underneath and figuring out where off-ramps are going to go and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, this is, again, going to change a bit. I did also sink this down, as I do want this to be a sunken highway stretch through our main downtown area. And there may also be some other sunken areas, particularly through here, is a possibility, but we'll see how that goes. So now let's take a look at extending some of our rail lines. And I think the first thing worth doing is looking at where our train station, our central train station, will go and which one we'll use. So I think we will probably end up using kind of the main train station, the vanilla one that kind of comes with the game, and we can maybe build some stuff onto it using some of these static ploppable buildings and making it look a little more unique. But I think in terms of size and all that, it'll make the most sense. So now the real question is, you know, where do we put it? And it is fairly large. So I think if we have rail lines coming in this way and wrapping around here, I think we do keep it on kind of the south side of this sunken highway. So I wonder if we make it kind of a central thing and put it somewhere right along here. My only thought then, though, is that you're going to have a lot of train tracks to cross in order to cross over the highway. So, you know, maybe that's not the best place for it. It also, you know, the way that I had it mocked up was definitely with a bit of a terminal, or not a non-terminal exit. You know, I had the train tracks kind of running through. And you know, it doesn't have to. We could let it be more of a terminal station, and that might give us a kind of a better place to put it if we don't have to worry about things, you know, about the train tracks going all the way through. So let's see if we put it somewhere more like this, kind of on the side of town here. We could have a lot of these train tracks kind of running through, connecting here, and then ending there. And so that actually might make a little more sense. Kind of tucking it right on the side of the city here, and it would make it real easy to connect buses or subways or whatever else we want to here. So I think we might go with that for now, and whether or not this is a terminal station or we let these extend and run along here, we'll leave for a later decision. But I think for now we're going to put that there, and then let's go ahead and grab our non-electrified double track. And so this is the trains that, you know, runs. We kind of fixed this up in an early episode, and it runs underneath our big bridge and our resort, and next to this mountain road. So I think we'll just run some of this train track into our downtown city center. So that's not looking too bad. One thing I didn't think about is how we're going to end up crossing a lot of these train lines. Because what I do like is I like the way that these look when they're like super parallel lined up like this. So kind of a, you know, this kind of look, and then having our third one lined up with this as well. But the question is, how do we then cross this if this is a main downtown area? And I think the answer is going to be to sink this down a bit, and that might mean sinking this whole station down a little bit, because I don't want to have any kind of crazy elevation, you know, changes for our train. Something we've been really trying to keep realistic this whole series, so I don't want to obviously stop that now. So let's continue with building our train tracks, and we'll worry about exactly how, because maybe we end up building the land up a bit around this and letting this be sunken with land that is higher than it on both sides. That's also a possibility. So, and actually I realized this one is going to have to come at a much different angle, because that train track is supposed to be coming along here, and that's going to be actually kind of a crazy turn radius. So let's see. I'm also realizing the problem here is that we did build this up very high, and we're going to really have to figure out how to get a nice clean slope in order to keep this train track high enough to make our bay crossing here nice and in line with our bridge, but also not giving our train, you know, a ridiculous slope. So that's about 3 degrees or 3%, which is fine. And then if we bring this in to about there, and what are we're getting a bridge here, which is not what we want. Not sure why it did that. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's giving us the bridge. Because I have bridge selected, that is a good reason why. I don't know how that happened. There we go. So that's about 2%, which I think is okay. 3% is a little steep, but I think that can work. And then how this is gonna, so let's see, what percentage is 3%, 3%. We're gonna have to make this quite the turn to make it 1.4%. I think is fine, but that is a real swooping turn. But that does get us where we want to be. And then I think we're gonna want at some point this to turn actually into a double track non-electrified, because we're going to want to branch this off to be separate for cargo and passenger. This train track, which is also actually, we're going to take that back a bit, and this guy I think will branch out here. So that's, you know, that's not too far off from what we drew out. It feels a little ridiculous now, and I don't know, you know, we'll end up changing some stuff. I've never quite built out an area of this size in this way before, so maybe this is a terrible idea and it's going to cause a lot of problems. I have no idea, but it felt like the best way to at least have some idea of where things will be relative to each other and how some of that stuff can work. I know that realistically, highways and train tracks maybe were here a long time ago. Highways would have been a newer thing, and really neighborhoods should be built, and then highways should be cutting through them and cutting them off. And we'll try to bring some of that in to the fact after, you know, when we're building stuff out, to try to get things to feel, you know, natural and realistic. But this just felt like the best way for me to approach this and have some long-term plan in mind, so we're not just kind of swinging in the dark. So yeah, I think that's feeling good. There's some things to clean up, certainly, like I think that ultimately this curve is feeling a little weird, so I think there's a smoother way for this stuff to meet. Let's see if we can't just, and this maybe should be a complex curve, which I still kind of forget about, and kind of do that a bit more like that. So that already looks a lot smoother. This turn is looking a little crazy to me too. So I think we can try smoothing this out, and this might also help us give us a better smoother curve. So I think if we just kind of bring in like that, so yeah, that gives us a smoother curve going the turn, and also just a smoother slope. So that's feeling much better. So that already helps a lot, I think. Is there anything else that's feeling? That turn's probably okay, although we could cut it a little bit smoother from like that, but we'll leave that for now. So now really I think we just have to look at some of these interchanges, and this is where stuff's going to get a little more interesting. So I think let's start with probably this first one here, because this is the one that's really starting everything, and it's going to be a big way for people to get from this inner region here to the coast. So I think we're actually going to pull this guy back a bit. What I really want to do is, rather than have it meet at this like hard 90-degree angle, I want to do it a little more organically around this curve. So I think what we'll do is, this is a 2-lane intersection. I believe it's the default width. Yeah. So I think what we'll end up doing here is keeping this at about the same. Yep, right about there. And we are going to bring this in about here, and then we'll curve it a little bit there, and then curve it back a bit right there. All right, and then from here, I'm going to turn off parallel, and actually maybe I'm going to bring this one back. This one might be okay. And then from here, we're going to start bringing this over. So I want to start to bring this one in about here, and bringing this up a little more towards the height that we are. Let's see, so this is actually at about 40. Okay, so we'll bring this up to about 40 something, right around here, and then turn off snapping because it just can't, it's not letting me go right where I want to be. And then let's see, yeah, it's a little high, so I think we'll bring this down just a little bit, bring all of these down just a smidge, and then from here we're going to branch off into singles. And we'll turn snapping back on just to get in there. And this will be an easy one because this is just going to come in here and connect like that. No problem. And then this guy on this other side, this one should already be kind of above, and it is. So we'll bring this one over to about here. And this one's going to come way across, and this might even be a good time for a complex curve. We'll start to bring this down, and then meeting up somewhere around there. That's not looking too bad. And then for this one, and we are, let's see, do we want to bring this one back a little bit? I think just a little bit, and maybe even we'll curve it in just, let's see. Let's just actually get rid of that and take our 2-lane here, and we'll start to bring this in somewhere like there about. And then to get going, for people to get, so this obviously is going to be going the other way. To get this lane going that direction, we are going to have this just come kind of straight across here above, and then doing a full wrap around. So we might actually need a little more space with our first one. In order to get this to, let's see. So if that actually, let's get these going the right way, and we can kind of get a better idea of. That's a kind of a crazy turn up there. So And that's obviously probably too high also. So let's see. If this comes, maybe we aim this more this way and give it a bit more space. Okay, so that took a little doing, as these things can in this game. I would say that these tools are as satisfying and fun as they are a little quirky and challenging and weird, but we got there. Overall, I think this is cool. It's feeling a little different than some of the ones we did over in Blackfoot and Rockwell. But also a little similar, and a lot bigger too here. So I think this is feeling good, and I think if we end up needing to upgrade this for these being 2 lanes, if this gets really busy at some point, I think we have plenty of room for that. But this is a great example of what I was talking about how much space these can take up. Could you do this a little more compact? Probably, but I think this looks on par for kind of how big some of these things can be. So Overall, I'm pretty happy with this, and there'll be lots of detailing to come, along with this stuff. But for now, I think this will certainly get our traffic moving, and yeah, we'll go from there. So now let's go take a look at another area that needs an intersection. Okay, so the next intersection I want to take a look at, or interchange, is this one. So this is where we have our little smaller highway here, cutting around our downtown area and then meeting up with another one of our smaller highways in order to kind of cross this whole section. So I think what we're going to do with this one is actually adjust some of the way that this is laid out. So I'm going to delete from about there to there, and actually even maybe a little further. And then we're going to take this 2-lane highway here, and let's make sure we're at about the same elevation. Looks like we're not quite. Let's get up there nice and high. And right about, there we go, that's good enough. And then we're going to take this out, and I just want to bring this one away from the other one a bit and have it kind of stretch out a little bit more like that, which is just giving us some space to play in between. And then the same with this one. I think we're just going to back this up a bit to right around there and start splitting this one up also a little sooner. So I think we'll go back to our 2-lane here and probably take this one out somewhere around here before, well, that might even be too far actually. Let's start there before we split this into single lanes. So this one is easy. We'll just have this one come up and meet up right there. And then this is where stuff gets fun. So by fun, I mean complicated. This guy is going to break off, and we're going to have to lower this one down a bit and kind of bring it underneath these. Make sure we're low enough, and then start to bring it back up and meet there. So that's probably not going to be, that's not too bad actually. We'll tweak some of these, eventually, but that's not actually too bad. And then let's see. So we'll also try to get one coming off from this. And I think what we're going to do here is actually something a little different. So what we're going to do is actually have this peel off from the left side here. And then let's make sure we're at the same height. And then, so we're going to come up like this and then go underneath. Let's bring us down a bit. A little more until it doesn't merge. There we go. So we'll bring this kind of in here and then back up to meet up with the left side here, while this one breaks off from this side somewhere, maybe about here, kind of branches off, and then we're going to have this go way up and over to about there before meeting back up that way. So this looks super janky, but you kind of get the idea that what we're going for here. So I'm going to go in and get this nice and cleaned up and add in a few of the other areas connections we don't have, so that this can look not like something that you made with the controller in City Skylines 1. Okay, so we cleaned this one up a little bit and then went ahead and created this kind of merge where you come out of this big interchange and head right into this one. So this is getting pretty heavy on the infrastructure, which was the plan. But I think that this is looking pretty good. I think the thing it really needs is just to have some of the land built up underneath it. A lot of these big interchanges, sometimes you see them, floating completely in the air on stilts with, roads and stuff underneath. But I think I want to build a lot of this into, especially here coming out of this little mountain here, I want to build a lot of this into the landscape. So we're going to get just a little bit of that going as we wrap up here today. So I think what we want to do is convert some of these to force landscape, like this one, not the bridge. So I think definitely these lower ones we're going to want to be all earth like that. And same kind of coming the other way. Make sure that those are aligned well as we can. And so we'll get those in. I think this can also probably start to be into the land maybe about here. And I guess we might as well do this one. Although these tend to get a little janky right here where they meet without the key walls. So even if we build the land up, we may end up bringing that key wall back. So then we'll go ahead and get a brush here and grab this height and just kind of fill all this in. And I think we're gonna be filling in quite a bit of this. So let's see where else. I think all of this too. And I'm just gonna bring most of this up because you don't actually have to obviously have them be, that you can use the elevated stuff. You want the key wall though, not the bridge, because the bridge will create these spikes. So what you want to do is have your key walls on so like this, and let's turn clipping or snapping back on, so that way you don't get the weird kind of posts built into them. So I think for this one too, and honestly we might end up doing that for a lot of these, especially because it also keeps the guardrails, which I think are nice. So certainly like these, we'll all get that. As well as these, and you still get a little bit of this funk here, but it's better. Oh, that went too far there. So that we do want to keep a bridged section without keys. And I think what we'll do here is just add a node quickly, just one of these guys, and then make sure that this is not a bridge. And we have keys, and we're replacing there. So yeah, that's what we want there. And that's certainly a start, but I think we're gonna keep going even a little farther with this. So we're gonna actually bring this one into a key wall. This single one, I think, a bit more like that, and then. Probably this section too. We're gonna have to move the nodes a bit. That one I think can kind of stay. This definitely will want to be keys going into here. And also all of this. This we're gonna build up everything as well too. So we'll take this right out to. Actually, we'll go about there because we may end up wanting to get a pass-through road underneath that. So let's get our landscape brush here and bring a lot of this up. And all into here we want up. So that means we'll probably bring this one up as well. This lower version we can kind of fit in here. And then let's go back to key walls for, let's see which one. This one's already got it, I think, right? Yeah. So for this 2-lane run here. But that, of course, cuts that off. So we want it there, but not here. So this one we do want that to be, nope. Let's see, what do we do here? That one we want to be a bridge. Yep. Okay. And then the only problem with the key walls is you do get this little see-through business where you can't see the other wall. This one's okay. This one is super janky. Let's see if we add. Yeah, that gets weird. So I think we are still going to bring a lot of this up, though. So this we don't want to be, but this I think we do. And that means also this we do. And at least I think we're going to go to there. And then we'll get back with our dirt brush here, our landscaping brush, and just fill a lot of this in. So I'm not sure. I guess we just that dirt. So I think maybe if we redraw it, we redraw this section with. Let's see if we even just do. I don't think this is gonna work. Oh, it does. Okay. So if we just force it into a ground one and then switch it back, it'll put the posts at the right height. So that's good. But yeah, I think that is going to feel a lot more blended in to the landscape, so that this huge mess is being more supported by earth than by pillars, which again is a thing. Plenty of highways that are kind of tower above, but I really want this stuff to blend into the ground a little more. So and then just for now, we'll just smooth all this out, and we'll get a lot more detailing in here. But that's a little more kind of what I was envisioning. Yeah, we want this to be up nice and high though, so we'll have to bring this way out so that our smooth brush will not bring it too far down, and then we can push this back a bit, even like that, and we should be able to make a smaller brush probably. That's a very small brush, and we can just smooth this bit out like that. And then kind of the same thing over here. So yeah, I think that is looking pretty good. I'm gonna, let's see. Yeah, we'll hit some detail on this and on our first intersection from this episode, and then I think that'll do it. Oh, the other thing I did want to do, I was thinking about this real quick. This train track that I had going on, I'm realizing that this is a freight line, and I don't think a freight train is going to be coming this high in the air. Maybe they do, but I'm thinking that's not going to work. And this seems like something that should be more of like a subway, kind of thing. And I guess we could have a passenger train, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of all of that, and I'm going to have the train go around. I just think that is going to make sense. We'll have some industry and stuff down here too, so that's another place for the train to run. So let's just run this train track real quick. Okay, so that I think will work a little better. I'm not sure that I love this little curve in here, especially for freight stuff. And I did cut through some of this, but we're probably going to end up terraforming a little bit of this. I do want to keep some of this mountainy area, but I think we might have some cargo stuff here, and this train can wrap around this way and then come up to. There's going to be a lot of industry and stuff going on in this bay, so I think that makes more sense. And then we'll get a commuter, probably a subway, even though it's a subway, but above ground kind of subway thing here, similar to BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit in the Bay Area, something like that can cross with the bridge, or maybe in true BART fashion we'll go underwater. So we'll see. But I just didn't like that big swooping turn, was too big and it didn't feel right next to the bridge. So yeah, all right, let's wrap up with a quick detailing time lapse, and then I will see you guys next time. Thanks so much. Bye.
Easy.